Hello guys, so what we will learn in this video is how to create a beautiful, or not really beautiful, but beautifully functioning, fully working slider, right? So I have values all the way from 0 to 100, and as you can see, it is updating in real time to the correct value. And not only that, but I can get the update from the input and it will reflect on the slider. So let's get to it. All right, guys, this is how we do it. We get the text field widget on here, and let's call it value. Then we will get an ellipse for our slider knob. Let's make it a little bit smaller. Perhaps, yeah, 24 by 24 should be good. Let's call it a knob. Right. Okay, let's make this a little bit taller so it actually looks kind of nice as well. And then now we will wrap this in a dynamic panel because we'll want to drag this around. All right, so create dynamic panel. All right, let's call that knob 2. And now we need a rectangle for our track, for the slider track. Okay, so let's create this and let us make it a little bit nicer because I don't like this one bit. So this should be all right. Let's get that border out of the way, and a little bit of a corner radius should be good. All right. Now, okay, I like this. Good. And this text field is fine. There's not much to do with it now. So let's just place this on here and put it above it. Okay, good. Now, the first thing is to animate the knob so that it can move along the slider line. All right. So that means we go to interactions and we create a new interactions and we find drag. So on dragged, and we need to move, right? We move this widget with drag X only because we only want to move it horizontally. Okay, and no animations, and we want to add boundaries. We need to add boundaries so that it doesn't move beyond its limits on the left or right. Okay, so we add 2 boundaries, left. So the left of this knob needs to be greater than the left of this line, so is greater than, and we go here, we call this a line, which is a widget, and this rectangle we will name it shortly, and we go line.x fine, and then we go to set its right boundary, which should be lower than, or always do or equals with this thing, and again add the local variable widget rectangle, and that is line.x plus line.width. All right, so now with this we should be able to go ahead and not publish but preview. Okay, and when we preview, now we can move. All right. There might be a slight problem because you see what I forgot is that it moves only to the boundary, only like to here, but usually the slider, the knob moves to the center, right? Because its value is dictated by its center, not by its edge. So we will fix that right away. So that just means a little bit more math to do. Okay, so more options, and let's go here. So line.x, and we subtract the this dot width over 2, and here we add this dot width over 2. So that should work fine. Let's refresh. Yes, now we go all the way as it should. Okay, so this is the basic functionality, that we can move the slider horizontally within its bounds. Okay, great. So now we actually want this to set value on this text field, right? Because usually when you have slider, you have a text field. You might not have a text field. You might just have a static info on the value chosen, but usually there is a text field which can also change the value, right? So this is a bit more complicated example, so we will do this because just doing the slider, it's very simple. So now we need some, let's say, hidden variables or hidden widgets that we'll use. So I will duplicate this widget here, and I will duplicate it like 3 more times. And the first one I will call value control. The second one I will call min, as for minimum value, and the last I will call max, as for maximum value. So why did I just create these 3 text fields? Well, each slider is based on the idea that there's a minimum and a maximum value, right? And if I want to calculate the value that is chosen, I need to have the minimum and the maximum, so that I then can calculate this point what it is. So I'll just set a default. So let's say the minimum will be 1 and the maximum will be 100, or the minimum will be 0. That's better. So from 0 to 100, and this value control will be empty. And I'm adding the value control there so that I can actually do the value both ways, so that when I move the slider, the value will update in the text field here, and when I update the value and change the value in the text field, the slider will move. So we need to have this intermediary for that. So now we have these widgets. Let's set the value. So what I want is that when I move this, I want to update the value on this value control, set the correct value, and then it will set the value on this. So we have the move action here. Let's add a new let's add a new action to there. So that will be set text on value control. And now we just have to do some math. So I need some local variables. So I need the variable for minimum, which is text on widget min. Then I need my maximum, which is text on widget max. So I need these. And then of course I need the track, right? So that will be this rectangle, and I will actually go and name it track so that everything is neatly named. All right, so now that we have it all named, let's get back to the knob and to this action. So now what we need, the first step is to find out where the knob is relative to the track. Okay, so we need this dot x minus track.x. So that will give us basically the distance between the knob and the beginning of the track. But not this dot x, because that is the left, but we want the position of the center. So that would be just to put it in parentheses with this dot x plus this dot width over 2, right? So this gives me the center of the knob, and now I subtract the beginning of the track, And to get the percentage, I need to divide this by the width, total width of the track. So another parentheses, and let's divide it by the track dot width. So this gives me the percentage. And now, of course, what we want to do is to multiply this. So another parentheses. And now that we have the percentage, we will simply multiply it by the absolute value, or the value between maximum and minimum. So right now it would be 100, but it could be whatever, like the minimum could be 100 and the maximum would be 1,000. So there would be 900. So we don't know what it is. So we will just do max minus min, and that should pretty much do it. So let's see. Let's go back to our here, and we get not a number, obviously. So to see what is going on, let me do this and go back here, and we get not a number. Why do we get not a number? Okay. Oh, right. So, okay. Here I forgot to set this to be a widget, not text on the widget, right? So that should fix it. Okay. So now we see it is being correctly set. And there's a lot of decimals which we don't need really, so we can go back here and actually put in another parentheses, all right, and say to fixed 0, which should give us a nice whole number. All right. By the way, if you guys don't know what I just did, this is just a simple function from JavaScript, but if you don't know it by heart, you can find it here. Go to insert variable or function, and you get the number functions here. So you just see it here, and there's documentation on Axure, so just look at it. And now, of course, we want to set the value back, or not back, but from the value control to the value. So it's simple. So just go to value control and new interaction, text changed, and it'll be set text to value and set text to text on widget this. And now, why are we not? Oh, right, we're setting itself. Okay, so set text on value, and so now we have half of a functioning slider, right? So this is the first part, getting the value from the slider to the input, and of course the next thing would be to set the value the other way around, so from the input to the continue. So we have the working slider, and so that the value is set from slider to the value to the input, and we want it the other way around. I mean, we can't just go and set it straight, so like we write the number here and then we set the coordinates of this knob, because we would create an endless loop, right? So we need some control over it. So I will go ahead and duplicate this again, and I will have another text field which I will call origin. And the point of this is that I know where my value originates from. Okay, so that when the knob is moved, so when the slider is moved, when this is the one controlling the value, the input is not doing it. Okay, so the input is just displaying the value, and it is not reflected back upon the slider, right? So this just goes one way, And then if I'm not playing with the slider and I'm typing in the input, then the slider is changed and updated. So let's go to the value control and we will set a case. So enable case, and let's call it slider origin. And we'll add logic where text on widget origin equals to text slider. Okay, and then we of course need to set it so that is new interaction on drag started. And let's set text to origin and let's set it to slider. Okay, so let's just preview it that it still works. So yes, it still works. Good. Now for the opposite part, so let's do new interaction here. So text changed, and set text on value control and set to text on widget this. Fine. So now the text is being set on the value control, and then we need to set it from the value control to the slider. Okay, and also we need to tell it that okay, now the origin is from here. So also new interaction on focus. So got focus, and let's set text on origin to input. Let's just say it like that, and then we will add so we will select the value control and we will add a case and input origin and add logic text on widget origin equals to input. Okay, and then instead of setting text, we will set the X value of the knob. So let's move. I like to move it. Let's move the knob to specific coordinates. So we don't move the Y, okay? So we just say target.y. So target is the reference for the widget that we are targeting. So this just means that we are not changing the Y coordinate, we are just changing the X. And so to change the X, we need to do basically the opposite function of what we did there. So first we need to calculate where we are from the min and the max. So that means that we need to go like this dot text minus min, right? So we need to actually get the minimum. We will also need the maximum. And we will definitely need the track as well. So let's get the track. So we are getting this, and now of course we need to divide this by basically the max minus min, so that we know the range, so that we are getting the percentage correctly. And now we have the percentage, and we need to set it. We need to see like what is the X coordinate representing this percentage. So for that, what do we need? So we definitely need more parentheses because there's never enough of them. And now we need the track of the width, so we will multiply this by the track dot width. So this gives us basically the relative position from here to here. And we also need to add the track.x, so the starting position, so that we actually know where this relative starts from. So it starts from here, but minus target dot width over 2. Okay, so again, so that we actually calculate it from the center. So let's see if this works. And so let's go back here and see if I set this to 50, and there we go. If I set this to 70, 70, then 100. And so now we actually have a working slider. Okay, so now I'm not feeling like 31, I'm feeling like 35. Yep, or 30. Okay. So, oh, I see. Okay, so there is a mistake here that this still has focus, so I'm not, the origin is still slider. So it has to be something else then. It can't be this. Nah. So let's just get it to here. Never mind, we'll be updating it all the time. Doesn't matter. There's no harm done. Oh, there is. Okay, so okay, so that's another way to do it. So how are we going to do it then? What is possible? Okay, so we need to, it's probably no way to do it like this, so we just need to do it the other way. So drag started, we have origin to slider, and when we stop dragging the slider, we'll say, okay, now the origin can be input. So let's just say that new interaction drag stopped, and we will set text on origin, and we will set it to input. Okay. So now it is slider, now it's input, so I can go not 75, but 70. Okay, now this, and probably not, but like 80. Fine. Now, the last thing that we could do is that we could actually make it so that this doesn't happen, right? Because right now I can enter 800 and, you know, the slider, the knob can just fly away. So how do we do that? So firstly, of course, I mean, we could set the boundaries here just like we did that. So that's probably a good thing to do. So let's do it. So left is greater than or equals to, we need the track. So that's the track dot x, and the, sorry, and we forgot that we are doing the center, so track dot x minus target dot width over 2, and the right is less than or equals, and again we need the track, which is a widget here, and so that's track dot x plus track dot width plus target dot width over 2. Okay, so now that we have this, it will know. All right, so I probably need to initialize this by saying input, so that actually it works even without me touching the slider. So let's just set this to 80. Now if I do 800, like, it will not move, but obviously now there's a discrepancy, right? So there's 800 here, but this can't be 800. So what can we do about that? So of course, text changed, and we need to set another case, I guess. So this will be the default, sure. And we need a new case, so this will be if or max exceeded, and add logic. So if text on widget this is greater than text on widget max. All right, we will sort this out later. So then we will set text on this widget to text on widget max. All right, and now let's just put this around, change this around, swap it so that it first checks this. So now if I go back and I type in 800, it gets back to 100. If I put 1000, it just won't allow me to do more. And we can do the same for minimum. Right, so I just copy paste this and let's call this minimum exceeded, and let's change this to minimum and is lower than or less than, and we will just change this to min, fine. And so now if I put in -2, it just goes to 0, right? And of course, but what we see is that we're not getting the moving action. And that means that we just need to toggle this so that this always happens, right? And if we just do that, why isn't... Okay, so something broke. So what broke? Why is it broken? I had to do some more thinking and debugging. So what just happened is that when I actually put in minus here or plus or whatever, the system just sort of went crazy and just stopped working. I don't know why. So I just needed to handle this exception, and I handled it in such way that I changed this condition from just simple else if true to checking that whether the value is between the minimum and maximum. Okay, so that if it's just some gibberish like a minus or a plus, it just won't set off the calculations and it won't go crazy, right? And it won't just break. So there we have it, a working slider. Now, of course, in reality, you would all put this in groups. I usually just call it hidden variables or something like that. And you hide it. And now you just have a working slider. And to top it all off, I guess we could initialize it. Okay, so that would mean that we have some default value on value control. Let's say it will be 50. Okay, and right, we have the 50. Okay, so we have 50, and of course we need to set the opacity back to it. And now when it's loaded, right, we want it to no, we actually don't want to initialize it like this. What we want to say is that when it is loaded, we want to set text on this widget to value 50, and that will of course initialize the slider probably. Yeah, it initializes the slider, and we also want to set not just this to 50, but let's set the value to 50 as well. Well, probably if we just set the value to 50, that should just do the trick, because then it should bounce back. Yeah. So there you have it, a working slider. Now I hope you learned something. I hope you had fun, because I certainly did. And of course, then you can go ahead and style it. Of course, this file is available for download. The link will be in the description. And so comment on what you would like to see next. And yeah, see you in the next one.